I never imagined my wedding day would start with the smell of burning lace and lies. I was just minutes away from walking down the aisle when I walked into the bridal suite and found her there. Lillian Prescott, my soon-to-be mother-in-law, holding a lighter in one hand and a smug expression in the other. Smoke curled up from the scorched fabric of my wedding gown, the same gown I'd spent 6 months customizing. It was ruined, melted tulle, charred satin, $1,000 dream turned to ash in seconds. "Oh, don't look so shocked, Kelsey," Lillian said coolly, dropping the lighter into her designer purse like it was just another accessory. "You should thank me. I just saved my son from the biggest mistake of his life." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stared at her, my hands trembling slightly, not from fear, but rage. The kind of rage that only simmers under the surface when someone crosses a line that can't be uncrossed. "My name is Kelsey Bennett. I'm 26. And as I stood there barefoot on the bridal suite's hardwood floor, watching the remains of my wedding dress curl into black flakes, I realized something. Lillian didn't come to see a wedding. She came to stop one. "You think a girl like you could ever be enough for Nathan?" She sneered, stepping closer. "He's a Prescott, Ivy League, 5th-generation trust fund. And you? You're a waitress who put herself through state college on scholarships and tips." My bridesmaids, Leah, Danny, and Margot, stood frozen by the window, eyes wide with disbelief. "Lillian," I said slowly, deliberately, "do you have any idea what you just did?" "Oh, I know exactly what I did," she snapped. "I exposed this farce for what it is. My son needs someone from his world, someone like Caroline Vandermeer. Not whatever this is." I should have been sobbing, but I wasn't. I pulled out my phone from the vanity drawer and hit the side button twice. Lillian didn't notice. She was too busy pacing like a villain in a courtroom drama. "The wedding is off," she declared, flicking invisible dust off her tailored blouse. "I'll tell Nathan you got cold feet. He'll believe me. He always does." "Are you sure about that?" I asked, lifting my phone screen so she could see it. It took her a second to register what she was looking at. Then her eyes widened. "What is that?" she hissed. "The live stream," I said, voice calm and steady. "The one Nathan set up so his sister in Tokyo and grandparents in Arizona could watch the wedding. It's been running for 20 minutes. On the screen was a perfect shot of Lillian standing over my burning dress, lighter still in hand. Every word she'd said, every insult, every threat, all of it. You little, turn it off!" she shouted, lunging at me. Leah stepped between us like a pro bodyguard. "I wouldn't," she warned. "Pretty sure arson and slander don't look good on camera." My phone buzzed with notifications. Dozens, probably from guests who'd been watching the pre-ceremony stream thinking they were going to see flower arrangements, not a family scandal. Danny glanced down at her phone and gasped. "Nathan's on his way here." Lillian's face turned ghost white. "Number he can't see this." But it was too late. We could hear him. His voice echoed down the hallway. "Kelsey, what's going on?" The door slammed open. There he was, my fiancé. His tie loosened, hair slightly disheveled, eyes wild with confusion. He looked from me to his mother, to the wreckage on the floor. "Mom," he breathed, stepping forward. "What did you do?" Lillian straightened her back. "I saved you. That dress was a lie. This whole wedding is a mistake. She's after your money, Nathan." "No," I said before he could respond. "She's after control. And when she couldn't control me, she set fire to my dress." Nathan's eyes locked on his mother's, and something in his expression shifted. The love-struck sun was gone. What remained was a man staring at the truth with eyes wide open. "You always told me love should come with a prenup," he said slowly. "But now I realize the only contract you care about is the one where you own me." Lillian stepped forward, desperation creeping into her voice. "Nathan, I'm your mother." "You were," he said quietly, "until today." She flinched, but Nathan wasn't done. He turned to me, his voice soft now. "Kelsey, what do you want to do?" I looked at the smoldering pile of silk and lace. It was more than a dress. It was a symbol. And she tried to burn that symbol to the ground. I took a deep breath. "The wedding's still happening," I said, "but I'm going to need a backup dress." His eyes lit up with hope. "Do you have one?" "No," I admitted, then turned to Margot. "But remember that photo shoot for Bridal Now magazine? The sample dresses?" Her eyes widened. "Yes, Olivia has them, and her studio's 5 blocks away." Nathan turned to his best man, who'd followed him up the stairs. "Go, now bring whatever you can find. Tell her it's an emergency." The guy didn't ask questions, just sprinted out of the room. Lillian was still frozen in place, lips parted in disbelief. You can't be serious. You're really going through with this?" "Oh, we're past serious," I said. "We're legendary now." The next 10 minutes were chaos. Nathan's father showed up, red-faced and furious. When he saw the live stream replay of Lillian lighting my dress on fire, he simply said, "Security will escort you out." And they did. Lillian left screaming something about betrayal and bloodlines, but no one paid attention, because we were busy saving a wedding. My bridesmaids kicked into high gear, coordinating the backup dress, fixing my makeup, rerouting the ceremony's start time. The venue staff jumped in, adjusting the lighting and resetting the music cue. When the replacement dress finally arrived, an off-the-shoulder silk gown with pearl buttons, I slipped into it like it was made just for me. "It's not the dress you planned," Leah said, zipping it up. "No," I agreed, looking at my reflection. "It's better." Because this one came with fireproof resolve, and as I stepped out into the hallway, ready to face the guests who'd witnessed everything, I knew one thing for sure. They weren't going to see a disaster. They were going to see a woman who wouldn't let anyone burn her future. When the doors to the garden opened and I stepped out in that backup dress, something surreal happened. People started clapping, not politely, not out of obligation. They stood up. All of them. And they clapped like I'd just won a war. I hadn't even reached the altar yet, but I could feel it. The shift in the air. They weren't just witnessing a wedding anymore. They were watching a woman rise from the ashes of someone else's sabotage. And that woman was me. Nathan stood waiting at the altar, his hands trembling just enough for me to notice. His eyes locked on mine the second I stepped onto the grass path. Whatever panic or anger he had earlier was now replaced by something softer, fiercer, like he was proud of me, like he couldn't believe I was still here, after everything. I took each step slowly, letting every ounce of confidence I had carry me down the aisle. My bridesmaids followed close behind, straightening the hem of the new dress, helping me float like nothing had ever been burned, like nothing had been broken. Only Nathan and I, and the 200 guests watching, knew otherwise. The string quartet started playing a soft instrumental of 1,000 Years. Cheesy? Maybe. But right then, it was perfect. And when I finally reached him, he leaned in and whispered just loud enough for me to hear. "You're the strongest person I've ever known." I smiled. "Tell me that again after we're married, and I steal the blankets." The guests laughed. We needed that moment of levity, because the whole thing still felt like a dream. A chaotic, flame-scorched dream. The officiant, a family friend named Pastor Collins, cleared his throat. "We are gathered here today," he began, "not just to celebrate a union, but to witness resilience, strength, and above all, love that refused to be extinguished." That line, it wasn't in the script, but somehow it captured everything. We said our vows. Nathan looked me in the eye and said, "I vow to never let anyone come between us, and if someone tries, especially someone from my own blood, I'll choose you every single time." I didn't cry, not even when I wanted to, because I needed to remember every word, every promise. This wasn't just a ceremony anymore. It was a reclamation. When it came time to exchange rings, there was a brief panic. The rings were with Lillian. Of course they were. But before the awkward silence could stretch, Nathan's father, Mr. Prescott, stepped forward, holding up the velvet box. "I took the liberty of retrieving these," he said quietly, offering them to the officiant. "Just in case." I looked at him, surprised, and he met my eyes with something close to shame. "I should have stopped her sooner," he whispered. "I let her control this family for too long." It wasn't an apology, not really, but it was something. We slipped the rings on each other's fingers. And when the officiant finally said, "You may kiss the bride," Nathan kissed me like he'd almost lost me, like he'd never take me for granted again. The guests erupted into cheers. Confetti cannons fired on cue. And for the first time all day, I breathed. The reception that followed wasn't what we had planned, but it was better. The ballroom had been redecorated last minute by my amazing wedding planner, who turned the ceremony drama into a subtle Phoenix Rising theme. No joke. There were gold feathers and flickering candles, and even a custom neon sign above the dance floor that read, "Still standing, still loving." Someone handed me a glass of champagne. I barely took a sip before people started approaching. "Kelsey, I've never seen anything like that. You handled it with such grace." "My daughter's dealing with a toxic mother-in-law. You're an inspiration." I didn't know how to respond to half of them. I mean, I wasn't trying to be anyone's hero. I just wanted to get married. But somehow, surviving sabotage on camera had made me some sort of symbol. Across the room, I saw Mr. Prescott talking quietly to a few of Lillian's high society friends. Whatever he said made them glance at me, nod politely, and quietly leave. Damage control. It was subtle, but I saw it for what it was. Him choosing a side, and it wasn't hers anymore. Later that night, during our first dance, Nathan leaned down and said, "I think you scared my entire family into respecting you." I smirked. "Good. Maybe they'll stop acting like I stole the silverware." He kissed my temple. "You didn't just survive today. You redefined it." Around us, people danced. The tension from earlier had melted into celebration. And somewhere in the corner, my boss, yes, my boss, was filming discreetly on his phone. Why? Because apparently, the video of Lillian burning my dress had already gone viral. 30,000 views and counting. People were calling it the wedding that wouldn't burn. Someone even made a meme with my backup dress photos and the caption, "She said, I do, like a damn phoenix." I wasn't even mad. I just raised my glass and toasted to it. Because sometimes, the best revenge is looking unbothered while everything that was meant to destroy you makes you stronger. The morning after our wedding, I woke up not to birdsong or breakfast in bed, but to a CNN news alert. Bride's dress, burned by mother-in-law, goes viral. 3.2 million views overnight. Yeah, that happened. I was lying next to Nathan in the honeymoon suite, tangled in sheets and relief, when my phone buzzed so hard it fell off the nightstand. I picked it up, half expecting some friend's text saying, "Congratulations again. Nope, it was my boss. Followed by a string of messages from coworkers. Then people I hadn't heard from in years. A high school acquaintance, my old roommate, a news producer. All of them had one thing in common. They saw what happened. Apparently, someone had clipped the footage from our wedding live stream, right at the moment Lillian lit my dress on fire, and uploaded it to TikTok with the caption, POV, your future mother-in-law commits arson to stop your wedding and you still marry her son anyway. The internet ate it up. The comments ranged from, that girl is a queen, to, let me borrow her spine real quick. People had started calling me the bride who burned back. Nathan scrolled through the trending hashtags and laughed. Lay ashes to altar? Seriously? Oh no, I muttered, covering my face. This is getting out of control. But deep down, a part of me liked it. Not the fame, not the attention, but the message. Because what Lillian did wasn't just petty, it was dangerous, toxic, and too many people, especially women, go through that same kind of sabotage silently. Now, for once, the world saw it happen in real time, and they saw me stand up to it. Later that afternoon, while Nathan and I were sipping champagne and pretending we weren't trending, his dad called. Kelsey, Mr. Prescott said, I wanted you to hear it from me before it reaches the press. My stomach dropped. What is it? Lillian's staying at her sister's house in Vermont. Apparently, she's telling everyone she was testing the dress for safety. I nearly choked on my drink. With a lighter? Believe me, I know, he sighed. She's in damage control mode. But here's the thing. She's threatening to cut Nathan out of the family business unless he annuls the marriage. I went quiet. Nathan didn't. He reached for the phone, voice cold. Tell her I'm not for sale. Mr. Prescott didn't argue. In fact, he sounded proud. I told her she's the one who needs to start worrying about her place in this family, and the board. The board, as in the Prescott Foundation. The crown jewel of the family legacy. The empire Lillian had spent decades building her reputation around. And now, that empire was slipping. Turns out, the board wasn't impressed by her stunt, especially not when clients started asking if the Prescott family supports sabotaging weddings with open flames. Nathan's cousin Julia, who had always been quiet at family gatherings, sent us a message later that evening. Just wanted you to know most of the family's on your side. Aunt Lillian crossed a line. She's being called out in every group chat. I stared at the message for a long time. Something about it felt surreal, because all I'd ever wanted was to marry the man I loved. I never meant to start a family revolution, but here we were. By the time we got back from our honeymoon in Tulum, the entire dynamic had shifted. The Prescott estate felt quieter, colder. Lillian's absence hung in the air like a ghost, but not one anyone missed. Nathan's dad had taken over planning the foundation's fall gala, something Lillian usually ruled with an iron fist, but now he wanted a new direction. We're calling it the Rising Phoenix Initiative, he explained when we met for dinner one night. A fund for women starting over after family estrangement, abuse, or trauma. Your story inspired it. I was speechless. Nathan reached across the table, took my hand, and said, Told you. Fireproof. Still, not everyone was thrilled. We received a hand-delivered letter 2 weeks later, postmarked from Vermont. Lillian, it wasn't an apology. Of course not. It was 4 pages of pure manipulation. Blaming me, blaming the media, blaming her own husband. She ended it with, If Nathan wants to come home, he knows where to find me. But not with you. I laughed when I read it, not because it was funny, but because it was so expected. and pathetic. But what struck me the most was this. She never once said the word sorry. Not for the dress, not for the wedding, not for trying to torch everything I had built with her son. That told me everything I needed to know. So I folded the letter neatly and slid it into the back of our wedding album. Not to cherish it, to remember what kind of legacy I refused to inherit. 3 months after the wedding, I walked into a room I never thought I'd be welcomed in, Prescott Hall. The place where Lillian used to reign like a queen. The place where she made it very clear I didn't belong. Only this time, her name wasn't on the invitation list. Mine was. Nathan and I had been invited, featured, as special guests at the annual Prescott Foundation Gala. The same gala she used to micromanage down to the silverware pattern. Except this year, the theme had changed. From legacy and wealth to the Phoenix Fund, rising after the flames. I couldn't make this stuff up if I tried. We entered the ballroom through the side door, like all important people do when they're trying to avoid the cameras for a second. But there were already whispers. Not the kind that come from scandal, but admiration. Is that her? The dress looks amazing. She's the one from the video, right? They were talking about me. And yeah, I had chosen my gown carefully. Deep crimson silk, cut like fire, with a subtle gold shimmer at the edges. Deliberate, symbolic. I wasn't just attending this event, I was the event. Nathan, in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo, leaned toward me. They're eating it up. I'm not here to be eaten, I whispered back. I'm here to be remembered. We walked in together, hand in hand, to a standing ovation. No announcement, no spotlight, just people standing on instinct. Because sometimes resilience speaks louder than any microphone ever could. Mr. Prescott was already waiting at the center of the room, flanked by a group of donors and board members. When he saw us, his whole face lit up. There they are, he beamed, motioning for us to come up. He pulled me into a hug, not the polite kind, but the kind that said, "You changed everything." "Thank you for being here," he said, eyes glancing around the crowd. "And thank you for helping me remember what this family's name should actually stand for." We took our seats up front, just before the keynote speaker took the stage, a woman named Carla. She was one of the first recipients of the new Phoenix Fund, a survivor, a fighter, and now an entrepreneur. She looked at me once before she started, eyes filled with gratitude. "My story began in a home I thought I couldn't escape from," she said into the mic. "Until I saw a video of a bride whose future mother-in-law tried to destroy her wedding dress, and she still walked down that aisle. That woman didn't just inspire me, she gave me permission." My chest tightened. I wasn't expecting to cry. But there it was. Unstoppable. Nathan reached for my hand again. No words needed. By the time the night was over, the foundation had raised triple its usual annual amount. People weren't donating out of guilt or status. They were investing in something real. A movement. As we were about to leave, a reporter from the Cleveland Herald stopped us at the entrance. "Mrs. Prescott," she said, yes, she used my last name, "do you have a message for other women dealing with toxic in-laws?" I paused for a second, not to think, but to choose my words with surgical precision. "Yeah," I said. "When someone tries to burn you down, don't waste time fighting the fire. Step out of the flames and build something better in the ashes." The reporter smiled like she'd just captured gold. We were almost to the car when Nathan's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, frowned slightly, then passed it to me. It was a photo of Lillian, sitting alone on a patio in Vermont. Hair unstyled, face tired. Next to her was a box of newspaper clippings, my clippings. She was watching every article, every viral post, every gala headline. She saw everything. She may have tried to erase me, but now my name was inked into the very legacy she once controlled. Nathan shrugged. Guess she finally found out what happens when you try to set fire to the wrong woman? I looked at the picture one more time, then deleted it. She can watch, I said quietly. But she doesn't get to play a part. 6 months after the wedding, I got the call. Hey, it's your mother-in-law. It was Nathan, standing in the kitchen, holding his phone like it was a ticking bomb. I looked up from my laptop. Which one? The metaphorical one, or the one who literally set my dress on fire? He didn't smile. She's in Cleveland. She wants to meet. I leaned back, arms crossed. Why now? She says she's in therapy, says she's changed, wants to apologize, in person. I didn't answer right away, because deep down, I wasn't sure what she was really after. Closure? Forgiveness? Redemption? Or control, wrapped in the illusion of humility? Nathan watched me carefully. I told her I wouldn't push you. It's your call. I nodded slowly. I'll meet her. His eyes widened. You sure? Yeah, but not for her. Then for who? For me. 2 days later, I met Lillian Prescott at a coffee shop downtown. Neutral ground. She was already sitting when I arrived. She stood up when she saw me, but I didn't hug her, just sat. For a moment, we didn't say anything. The silence between us was louder than any insult she'd ever thrown. Then finally, she spoke. You look good. Thanks. Marriage suits me. Her jaw clenched, that subtle twitch she probably thought I wouldn't notice. She was still Lillian, just in muted colors. I owe you an apology, she said stiffly. For the dress, the things I said, the wedding. No, I corrected. You owe me an apology for trying to destroy something because you couldn't control it. She flinched at that, but said nothing. I kept going. You didn't just burn my dress. You tried to burn my place in your son's life, and when that didn't work, you tried to make me feel small. Disposable? I leaned forward. But I'm not disposable. I'm unforgettable. Her lip trembled just slightly. I think that's when she realized this wasn't a reconciliation. This was a reckoning. I didn't know what else to do, she admitted. You weren't who I pictured for Nathan. You challenged me. And I resented that. You didn't resent me, I replied. You feared me, because I didn't need you. Her eyes welled with tears, but still, not a single sorry that felt real, just regret with strings attached. So I stood up. I didn't come here to make peace, I said. I came to make sure you understood that I'm not going anywhere. I'm not just Nathan's wife. I'm part of this family now. And if you can't accept that, then you're the one choosing to be alone. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and next time you want to test fabric? I looked over my shoulder. Maybe don't bring a lighter to a wedding. She didn't follow me out. She didn't call again. That was the last time I saw Lillian in person. She didn't show up for the Prescott Thanksgiving, didn't send a Christmas card, but she also didn't sabotage from afar. And honestly, that was enough. Nathan and I thrived. Our wedding story became a platform, not for fame, but for change. We partnered with nonprofits that supported women escaping toxic family dynamics. We spoke on panels. We helped people draw boundaries with grace and steel. People asked if I ever forgave her. Here's the truth. I didn't forgive the act, but I let go of the power it had over me. Because in the end, she taught me something I never expected, that the fire meant to break me became the one that lit my way forward. And if she ever tunes into a live stream again, I hope she sees it clearly. I didn't just marry her son. I married my own strength. And some things, they don't burn, they blaze.